Hey guys, how's it going? It's your boy M.K.S here, back with another video. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope as many people as possible from Indonesia and those who love Indonesia and those of Indonesian descent will check out this video specifically, and as many of my videos as possible. That'd be great. But as ever, I welcome all views and comments and whatnot. So yeah, I did talk before about why I would love to support Malaysia and India. Malaysia and India. Yeah, that was it. Malaysia and India. So for this one, obviously, I wanted to cover, as the title suggests, and hopefully alludes to, Indonesia. So once again, I haven't really planned it out, but I'm just going to try and have some fun and talk about why I wish to support Indonesia. And to be honest, it's the same. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but it's just for the same reason, or reasons pretty much, as why I wish to support both Malaysia and India. Sorry, trying to get it right. Malaysia and India, which is that they looked after, as well as the fact they were colonized, they looked after Indos, i.e. Eurasians of Dutch and Indonesian descent, mainly, if not solely. And I would love to combine projects of Eurasians all around the world, as I've talked about recently. I'd love to have Zoom groups. And I was thinking, I hope I can cover any ideas and points that I didn't raise in those other videos. So each one progressively, any point I forgot from the Malaysia video, I could cover in the India video, and then whatever point I forgot in the India video as well, or both of those videos, obviously, I could cover in this one, hopefully. But yeah, I'd love for Eurasians to connect. Eurasians, I put in speech marks, I don't know why, but including Christangs, Indos, Anglo-Indians like myself, and whatever other Eurasian group, and to visit especially Malaysia, India, Indonesia, and Singapore, because I think that would be a cool way to say thanks for them giving us historically our own spaces and things like that. And I hope that would encourage those nations to support us in the future. And also, on the subject of Eurasians, I would love for us to, and I probably covered this in the one about India or Malaysia, I'm not sure. But anyway, I would love for us to support each other politically, like to support Rahul Gandhi in India, for instance, and to see if we can help more people become politicians, even though I sometimes call them politicians rather maturely, but to have a political voice, or even lobby together. We'll talk about what sort of things we want to see politically. And I'd love for Eurasians to discuss what we can do to benefit these nations, including through tourism and things like that. And in the future, again, hopefully that will show that we give thanks to those who help us, and hopefully that will encourage Indonesia to help us back again in the future. And so I got my big bottle of tea here, one I got from Miami as a gift, as a present from one of my cousins. I think a couple of my cousins chipped in together to buy me this, so it's like a nice souvenir. So off topic, but yeah. So in a nutshell, there's two reasons, I suppose, why I wish to support all these nations, pretty much, which are, I suppose, a bit of a spoiler for the Singapore one, but I've got probably an extra to support Singapore. Although there is one thing I don't like about Singapore, but I'm giving a bit of a spoiler away for the video I hope to make later on tonight, the last video I hope to make tonight. So this is obviously the penultimate one I thought of making. But yeah, reparations for being colonized and all the things they went through during colonization. It'd be interesting to learn about those sorts of things and have monuments to those sorts of things and that kind of thing. And maybe they could make a positive from it by encouraging tourists to come and visit. I think Ireland and India and other countries have places where, and probably Malaysia does, and others where they have like things about colonialism and that kind of thing. But hopefully it'll be sort of righting a wrong from the past by supporting Indonesia's tourism. But yeah, I'd love to see like Zoom groups that can connect India, Indonesia, and Singapore and South Africa actually also, but especially those four Asian nations, and like they could connect people who support those nations and hopefully each other, connecting and becoming allies and supporting each other. which I hope would also make more peace as well, because hopefully by being together they won't feel threatened by potential invasions or whatnot, because they'll have each other's back, which I hope, again, will not be used for war, but will be used for peace. And on that note, one thought I had about for my fellow Eurasians, again, I put in speech marks for some reason, I don't know why, but due to my patterns. Another thing, I was going to apologize for my punctuation and writing style and that kind of thing, just as I did in my last video, but and my quirks and all that kind of thing, ones that might be a bit negative. But I'd love for my fellow Eurasians, sorry I've done it again, I know, but to support Malaysia, India, Indonesia, South Africa as well, actually, and Singapore, and again, especially those 4 Asian nations, to say thank you for supporting us by preventing potential invasions or terrorist or other such threats that might affect those said nations. So any sort of threats, and also looking at what problems they might face. So I suppose being troubleshooters, if you like shooting trouble down before it gets. So in other words, preventing trouble or problems that those nations might face, and things that might affect their economy or their citizens' safety or things like that, or maybe even a combination of those things. Those 2 things or even more. But yeah, so I hope to look into ways to ensure those nations profit maximize, I suppose, and make as much money as they can and have the best possible quality of life for their citizens and keep their citizens safe and all that good stuff. So I suppose the braver Eurasians amongst us, including AIs, Anglo-Indians, unlike myself, could, especially the ones who live in those nations, like India, let's say, for instance, or Indonesia, could help to prevent potential terrorist threats and things like search people who come over the border or anyone who comes into their countries. Obviously, as I'm talking about Indonesia, I'll stick to Indonesia for this one. But yeah, so people who come into Indonesia, and again, this could be the same for all those for those 3 or 4 other nations I mentioned. Anyone who comes in, they could be checked by my fellow Eurasians to make sure they're not carrying out any weapons or anything like that, any sort of concealed weapons or any weapons generally. And all potential threats and all that kind of thing. And also, on that note, possibly helping with things like, heaven forbid, if there are natural disasters or any other sort of problems facing those nations. I hope my fellow Eurasians will help with those sorts of things, and also share ideas which could help those nations to grow their economies even better, and hopefully even better than expected. And again, I think Malaysia, India, Indonesia, South Africa even, and Singapore, and again, especially those Asian nations, working together, hopefully can improve each other's economies by working together. So hopefully they're #stronger together, as I often put it. I also did mention in the video about India about how I would love I have to mention Italian football and Celtic, and how I would love for them to have academies and sports clubs, CSC, Celtic sports clubs, and sports clubs for Italian teams like AC Milan, Inter Milan, AC Monza, Roma, Juventus, and all the rest of the Italian teams, and Serie A players going to visit and doing more in the safest way possible, hopefully, and hopefully having fun and helping each other to practice and learning from each other, which I hope will benefit Italian Celtic as well as Indonesia and the rest of Asia as well. And I would love for their sovereign wealth funds to work together as well, like Malaysia, India, Indonesia, South Africa, and Singapore, so they invest in each other, share ideas, and look at how to pool money and resources together, so like investing in entrepreneurs in those countries as well, and that kind of thing. And I would love for Malaysia, certainly India and Indonesia and their sovereign wealth funds to invest in Inter Milan, going on alliterations, which I often talk about, and Malaysia possibly, or AC Milan as a fan of Italian football generally, but India and Indonesia, I'd love to work together, possibly with Malaysia, in investing in Inter Milan, hopefully helping them to achieve, and as their economies grow, hopefully they'll be able to invest more in Italian teams like Inter Milan and AC Milan, as well as Celtic. yeah, in the future, maybe I'll think of even more ideas, which I hope will benefit Indonesia. And I hope I can put together a Zoom group for all those, like, let's say, friends of Indonesia, which could discuss all the possible ways to benefit Indonesia. So there could be committees, think tanks, networks, brainstorms, whatever you want to call them. I suppose I use those terms interchangeably, so to mean the same sort of thing. Basically, a group of people that could meet up, and if they can't meet up in person, then they could meet up on Zoom, and they could discuss things on Facebook and possibly even on YouTube and other forms of social media and on websites and things like that. But I think Zoom would probably be the best way. Although I think you can get up to about 100 people on Zoom, if I'm not mistaken, for free. So I mean, they would only be able to keep up to, I think, if I'm not mistaken, about 100 people and discuss things for an hour, half an hour to an hour, or maybe if they paid a certain amount, which they might think is worth it, to discuss ideas, which would hopefully make a lot more money. It might be worth paying extra membership if they can get extra members and also extra time to discuss ideas which would benefit all those nations, hopefully together mutually. And yeah, hopefully they'll come up with ideas, a committee or whatever you want to call it, cooperative or whatnot, which will discuss ideas and vote on them and try and implement different ideas and possibly experiment with different ideas, and see what they can achieve. But yeah, I'd love to know what you think, and what, I suppose I'll leave it on the question which I did ask in the live chat, which is, what are the best ways to benefit Indonesia? And do you think that Malaysia, India, Indonesia, South Africa even, and Singapore, all working together, especially those Asian nations, which I mainly wish to focus on in April, May and June, could benefit each other? Anyway, I'm going to stop after. Peace and love. I'm out.